Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Let me see whether we can have more viewers before we proceed. Okay, welcome everyone. This is our first live on YouTube, so you are highly welcome. We'll be having it occasionally, but I have to confirm whether I'm audible so that we'll just continue from here. Today we are going to have a live session. So we'll do analysis, and then if a set of forms we are going to take. So if you are currently hearing me, if I'm audible, just type in on the chat box, just indicate so that we can just continue right away. If I'm audible, someone should just help me so that it won't be as though I'm talking to myself. I'm still waiting on you guys. I'm still waiting, trying to know whether I'm audible so that we'll continue with the live session. So there's no way to indicate. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Musa Muhammad. So we just go right away. You know, it's been really long. We had a session like this, so we are going to just take it, run analysis from the higher time frame down to the lower time frame, because majority of the moves, if you are analyzing technically, majority of the moves, if you analyze from the higher time frame down to the lower, you come to see that even if you are scalping, your win rate will, you'll be more right than wrong when you analyze from the higher time frame. So regardless whether we are scalping, you have to know where price is currently, and then where price actually came from, in order to forecast for where price is going to go. So this is the quarterly candle, and on the 3 month chart, you notice that gold is totally bullish. It has been bullish for a long time. I mean, since the beginning of 2020, since 2023, it has been bullish all through. We only had one bearish candle here, which is around April of 2025. But overall, gold has been bullish. So when you drop down to the monthly time frame here, you still notice that it is still bullish. And when we say something is bullish, let me not assume that I'm talking to those that know, because some might just be joining for the first time. So when we say something is bullish, it may mean that it is giving higher prices. It is disrespecting bearish PDRA while respecting the bullish ones. So on the weekly time frame, you can on the monthly time frame, you can still notice how, even though we've consolidated, we've stayed long around these months from March all through September, but from July and September, I mean, we had a bullish, month. Uh, Price has just been bullish. So if you look at the weekly time frame again, you still notice that it's still bullish. So what PDRA can you bring out from price? Because you have to know where price is currently, and price is where price is going to. So on the weekly time frame, still is bullish. We have a fair value gap here, we have a high here, and then we have an order block here. So on the weekly time frame, the bias is still bullish, but for the first time after almost 9 weeks, how many weeks if you count all these candles? For the first time, you notice that we had one bearish candle closure after this long trend. So price has trended up to here, and then it closed bearish last week. This week, the overall anticipation is for us to have at least a retracement to this weekly fair value gap. A retracement to this weekly fair value gap is something worth having, since price closed bearish last week, and today, you know the week has already started. If you drop down to the daily time frame looking for information, so but from the weekly time frame now, if you go back to the weekly time frame, we can either have a retracement to this fair value gap, or it can be as long as to this order block, because this order block is really sensitive, and you know it may even, price may still drop down to the order block, but gold and its delivery, you have to factor in some other stuffs in order to note the overall bias. So but still, all I know is that for now, this weekly fair value gap is something to look out for. When you drop down to the daily time frame as well, you realize that on the daily time frame, we it is still bullish, but then there is a displacement to the downside. So after the displacement, we have a daily fair value gap up here that could potentially drive us lower, but still we may not even enter the daily fair value gap before entering the weekly. So this is our weekly level here, and this is an order block. This bearish candle is what we categorize as an order block. So you know from the weekly, you can notice that there is still chance and room for retracement. So when you drop down to the 4 hour time frame, when you drop down to the 4 hour time frame, you'll still notice that price has shifted in structure. It raided the 80H first of all before displacing downwards, and it shifted in structure. It just reacted off this fair value gap here, and after the weekly candle opening, it continued to the downside. So even though price is still ranging, if you look at it this way, it has ranged right from on Tuesday. There wasn't any significant move either to the up or to the downside. So in this case, it can still continue to range before significantly communicating where price might potentially go to. So you can still, and when price is ranging, if it takes out a high, it will still, if it takes a significant high, it will still go and go for the low. So there's still chances for retracement, or for consolidation rather. So but then we have it in mind that this weekly fair value gap is something to consider, something worth coming to. Price may decide to go to the daily fair value gap before dropping to the weekly fair value gap, but it might still drop down instantly without that. So but we really need more information. When you drop down to the 1 hour time frame, you'll notice that on the 1 hour time frame, I mapped out this midnight open, because most times if I'm going to look for shorts, I short it above midnight open, and then for long I long below. So but on the 1 hour time frame, you still notice that right from Tuesday, price has been on the same place. So after dropping here, it went high as though it will go to the daily fair value gap. It rejected and dropped down, went up. So still we need more information. At the moment, I can't see any particular direction or I am so confident of, but that's part of the trading process. You mustn't trade every day in order to make money. Sometimes you have to just wait and wait and wait for the setup to form, and it's part of the honest part of trading. Some people wouldn't accept the fact that there is no any trade idea, and so they will just force it on, either based on ego. I must trade today, I must trade today. You mustn't trade every day in order to make money, and you mustn't even trade every week in order to profit from this market. As long as you just follow your own rule and your own plan, just waiting for price to do something. If it communicates to you, yeah, it is going up, definitely you just then use, capitalize on that opportunity. But at the moment, I have no idea, because we have this daily fair value gap at the upside, and then we have a weekly fair value gap. Price may still continue to consolidate, and it will be really be of low probability for me to just go long, since my own interest is on this weekly fair value gap. I'm so interested in price dropping there. So may go to the daily fair value gap first before dropping to the weekly, or it may just drop from here down to the weekly. And when it drops to the weekly, what then will you do? You look for some longs. So either ways, I'm comfortable sitting on my hands and doing nothing, unless price communicates bullishness or bearishness. After, if it goes up, I'll look for sells, and then if it drops down to the weekly first, I then look for buys. Either ways, we just wait for what price has for us. So it is highly likely that we may not even trade today, but tomorrow we'll still look at price to see what the bias may be. Regardless of what, patience is really important in trading. So with this, I think we'll just call it a day. We'll just call it a day. If you have any question, you can just type it on the chat box. This is my first time doing live on YouTube, so I'm not even conversant with the overall platform, so you may see some errors, and I'm trying to adapt. But on and on, we'll continue like that, perhaps twice a week or even more, depending on my own schedule. You may have it more and more often. So if you have any question in mind, you can just drop it on the chat box, or we just call it for the day. If there is any question, I'm still waiting. I think there is no question, so we'll just call it a day, and do have a wonderful week. This week we'll still trade, and just be active on Telegram, subscribe, and then